Yeah, motherfucker!
Okay, welcome back, everyone. Excuse me. To the third and final part of Ask the King for June 2017, episode 65. If you didn't see the previous two parts and you're watching on YouTube, go check those out. Lots of questions were answered. All right. I have a lozenge in my throat right now. I've been suffering from allergies pretty bad recently, and at this point, my voice is kind of shot. So I'm using a lozenge to lubricate so I can finish the show. All right. Let's head right into it because we still got a bunch of questions to answer. But before we do that, it is the time for the special segment where I give a special shout-out thank you to the following patrons who, through the months of April and May, actually not April, excuse me, May and June, pledged to my Patreon, and they get a nice verbal shout-out for doing so. So thank you to the following supporters who allow me to keep doing this for a living, because I love it, and I definitely would not be able to do it without you guys, okay? Tom Dooley, wow, Tom Dooley, who I answered his question and he cheered during the stream, he's the first thank you. Jeffrey, Brightside Viking, Mr. and Mrs. Kelcher, Peanut Brother, Villix, Abdulrahman Althani, Kazi, Big Tone 995, he got a question answered, Fred, Casey Wood, Hassan Kali, Thomas McDonald, Sean Given, Mike Hunt 2018, Last Rambo 341, he had a question answered, QPZ MWN, Papa Neeks, Alizin, Faithin 13, Ralik, Daniel Bonk, Stormforce Gamer, AV, Richie 7, Show Cryos, I believe is how you pronounce it. I could be wrong, it should be Show Trios, but I think it's Show Cryos. Astrius, Logan Shannon, Rick Eggers, Connor Brown, Joe Wilcher, Nyan Kitten 90, Michael Denealt, Vivek Farrow, Flutter Knight, Planet Jeff, Christine Gebhardt, Erwin Hames, Peru for the Win SC, Proto, Hank Duma, Jose Fernandez, Atlas Telemon, Timic83, Juan Andara, Mario Espinoza, Sean Murtaugh, Brian Ripple, and Damian Tubino. Thank you very much to all of you for pledging to my Patreon, and hey, I'm still here because of you, right? All right, let's keep going. Next question is from Young Wobbles. The question is as follows. Phil, like yourself, I'm a former competitive fighting game player. Excuse me. I completely stuck a word in there that did not belong. Let's try that again. Like yourself, I'm a former competitive video game player in the Madden NFL series in particular. I recently left the competitive scene last year, and I'm kind of feeling like my competitive spirit is still burning. My question is, after leaving the competitive Street Fighter community, what did you do to manage your energy? Do you still get the itch to compete? Also, do you have any suggestions for me and others like me that we feel that we're missing out on that rush of adrenaline that competitive gaming gets you? Thanks and have a great day. Well, for me, when I quit competitive gaming pretty much in 2007, I said I wanted to refocus my efforts into something else that maybe I had been neglecting because I had been so hardcore into the competitive gaming. And for me, it was all the other freaking games, right? Because from this time span of like the late 90s to 2007, I had pretty much been ignoring all these mainstream console games and development of consoles in general. I missed the entire GameCube era. I missed almost the entire PS2 era. I was busy playing Street Fighter. And I said I'm going to get hardcore back into it, so I ended up buying an Xbox 360. I bought a PS3. And I went out there. I just started buying up and playing games that people were telling me were like the best games for these. I played Grand Theft Auto 4. I played Mass Effect. I played Uncharted. I played a bunch of RPGs. I played Tales of Vesperia, Lost Odyssey. There's a ton of shit. Blue Dragon. I played a ton of shit that I completely missed out on while I was only playing Street Fighter. And I got my, was it the rush of adrenaline? No. But I really felt like I was refocusing all those energies towards something else that was actually just as fun. And then, of course, when YouTube blew up, and I decided to do YouTube, that was where I took that, all that effort and dedication I used to put towards competitive Street Fighter, redirected it, and pushed it towards YouTube. And the rest is history, right? Do I still get an itch to play Street Fighter? Absolutely. Right now, recently, I've been playing Ultra Street Fighter 2. And I'm having the worst time because the connections online on the Switch are terrible. The controls are awful. You can't even play it like you're supposed to. And I'm like, man, I remember the day back in the day. I'm jumping over someone with DJ and I'm hitting medium kick, and I'm remembering for a span of 3 years when I played competitive Street Fighter, not once did I ever drop my crossover combo with DJ. Crossover medium kick, 2 low jabs, standing medium punch into the spinning Sabat kick. That was a staple move, and everyone was like, holy shit, every time Phil jumps over you, he gets that fucking combo no matter what. Like, he never drops it. I can't even get it fucking once in this game online. And, I mean, yeah, I get that. I mean, I wish I could play. And I think back to when I was playing Super Turbo on Cabinet at Howard's house with everyone with the Don't Blow This days and how fun that was. You know, and I still get the itch every once in a while. But the bottom line is, do I want to sacrifice the time and the effort and the money that it would take to get back into the scene? Right now, as I've said earlier on Ask the King, I live about 45 minutes away from, like, downtown Seattle, Washington. I know that at universities and other places in Seattle, there's competitive Street Fighter, and they're holding tournaments for games that I would play. They have Super Turbo. They have, you know, things, Ultra Street Fighter 2. They do this. Okay, so I'm going to go to a tournament. So no streaming today. Okay. I'm going to drive 45 minutes one way, have to pay for parking somewhere. Obviously pay for food. Pay entry fee. Wait all day to finally play a few matches. You know what I mean? See what I mean? It's like when the ideal state of that high you get when you're playing high-level competitive play in a video game is cool, but there's so much sacrifice around it to get that at this point in my life, you know, I don't even think I would do it, honestly. Maybe if things improved, like I said, I would consider it. Let's say, for example, I'll give you an example. Let's say 2 years pass. Things go well, my Twitch presence here increases. I'm doing good money-wise. I'm able to refinance my house. I get a ton of my debt out of my name. Now I'm freed up. Maybe I'll go to Evo just for once, one more time to get it out of my system. I'll let everyone know I'm going, so those who are Super Turbo players who want to get together and play can play me. We'll all play. We'll have one final Super Turbo tournament, and we'll just go to town with it or whatever. Yeah, I would love to do that. But right now, I can't do that, okay? But to answer your question, Young Wobbles, trying to find something else creative or something interesting that you could take that energy that you had for the competitive gaming and focus it. And that's what I did with YouTube. Because a lot of people are like, Phil, why? For years there, 2-3 years, you did YouTube, you know, for nothing. Why? And the answer is, well, I had this energy to focus towards something positive. It used to be Street Fighter, and when I decided to stop doing that, I realized, oh my God, the realm of possibilities of things that are out there that I could do, and it just so happened it was the same time period as YouTube exploding, and like I said, the rest is history. So find something that you can do that would be a creative outlet for you, so you can refocus those competitive energies, especially if you're like me and you were totally burnt out and you feel sad because you miss that feeling, and you still have people in the community who talk to you and stuff. They're like, man, I wish you would come back. I hear you. I'm in the same situation, but for me, it's like, I gotta focus on my own shit and get shit together and try to do other stuff that's positive rather than Street Fighter, because I've been there, done that, and there's just other things in my life that I want to do. Okay. So. Oh, sorry. Eyes itching here. Okay. Derek, who's a frequent stream viewer, actually had a few questions. I pick and chose the ones I wanted to answer for him, because he had a ton, and I only picked and chose like 4 of them. First of all, he says, I was wondering, now that you're replaying Red Dead Redemption, what do you think of it on a scale from 1 to 10? I'll be honest. I'm not enjoying it as much as I did when I played it the first time, only because I know what's going to happen. But I still really like the game. The graphics, surprisingly enough, 7 years later, still hold up to other modern games, which is crazy when you think about that. The gameplay is good. The story is good. The characters are good. The side content, I'm getting immersed in playing poker and blackjack and five-finger fillet and all this. I'm having fun with it. So I would still, to this day, Red Dead Redemption was my game of the year in 2010. I would still, at this point, probably still give it like an 8 or a 9. It's that good of a game, man. It is. It's just really solid, fun. By the way, there's tons of online play that I'm probably not going to do this time, but there's so much to it. It's still a great, robust game that holds up in this day. So, definitely a great game, okay? Second question. Am I planning on playing the Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy? Yes. Am I going to play it immediately tomorrow? No. What I think I'll do is I'll try to beat Red Dead Redemption and see when I finish it. If I finish it in the next few days, then yes, maybe I'll jump right into Crash 3 and play that. And then maybe start Dark Souls 2 before I take my time off in mid-July. But I'm not going to be playing it tomorrow on release day. But I am interested in playing it once I finish Red Dead Redemption. Okay? Okay. Third question. I have 3 playthroughs of yours that I've really enjoyed watching in my spare time. Back to the Future, LA Noire, and your Grim Fandango Remastered playthroughs. What would you rate those 3 playthroughs individually out of 10 in the gameplay? See, this is subjective. I think the best story out of all 3 is LA Noire. But the gameplay of LA Noire is kind of all you're doing is looking for clues. It's not necessarily the most riveting gameplay, but the story itself is very interesting and riveting. Back to the Future, if you're a fan of the Back to the Future movies, that game is absolutely amazing to watch because you have, you know, the characters from the movies continuing the plotline from the movies, which is great. But if you're not a fan of Back to the Future, that playthrough's terrible because really it's just a Telltale game. This was before Telltale games even became mainstream popular. Grim Fandango Remastered is more for a niche audience. For people who really like that exploratory, try every possibility puzzle-style game. And it was fun, but I would say probably out of those 3, it's actually my least favorite of all 3 of those games. So I'd probably rank it LA Noire, Back to the Future, Grim Fandango. But if you're not a fan of Back to the Future, then I'd probably say LA Noire, Grim Fandango, Back to the Future. There you go. Okay. Final question. He says, do you have the option to watch ads for bits? I'm surprised I don't have it. I was talking to Kushi Akitori in the stream chat, and he says that I might have to contact Twitch about the issue because I never have the option. Alright, I don't know how this works. Maybe people in the stream chat now could actually help to answer the question. It seems it's inconsistent. Some people have this option. It says, watch ads for bits. So they can watch advertisements, get bits, and then cheer with those bits with their favorite streamers. Other people say it doesn't exist. I don't know. I don't even know where it would be for me. But, yeah, I don't know if it fucked up. Some people were telling me that it was broken and it hasn't been working recently. I don't know, because I don't know how it's supposed to work anyway. So, first of all, people are saying it's only in the USA. So, if you don't live in the United States, you cannot get it. You cannot do it. Other regions usually don't work, it says. And then I guess people are saying sometimes it doesn't, even if you're in the USA, it still won't work. So I guess it's a very limited thing. Obviously, what Twitch wants you to do is they want you to buy the bits via Amazon. That's what they want. Okay. So there's your answer. Sadly, if you live in the US and the option's not there, I would contact Twitch support and see if they can figure it out, but alright. Real quick, I got a few shout-outs. First of all, we got a troll cheer. I'll read it, though. It's a troll tip, actually, $2. He says, do you like Futanari? If you do, you should watch Futabu. It's pretty good. Because we all love Futanari here on my streams and videos, right? Anyway, Buttamania89 did a 90-bit cheer. Thank you, Buttamania. And then Juby the Hoobie did a 10-bit cheer, and he says you can do that in US only. He was answering what we were just talking about the bits. Okay. Continuing on. More questions. Okay, this is a very long wrestling question, so bear with him. This is Joe. He's a longtime viewer of mine. He has a very interesting wrestling question. Let me read his entire statement, then I'll answer, okay? Hey, Phil, this is a wrestling question. Since I didn't notice anyone else asking one, I'm always like to hear your thoughts on the current state of pro wrestling. How do you feel about WWE's inability to book Babyfaces in 2017? Since WrestleMania 33, nearly all the pay-per-views have contained heel-dominated cards, whilst Babyfaces are booked incredibly weakly. Heels like Samoa Joe, Alexa Bliss, Braun Strowman, and even Jinder Mahal are being made to look like big deals, while faces like Seth Rollins, Bayley, and Sami Zayn are booked as annoying and inept. Even strong baby faces like Finn Balor and Shinsuke Nakamura are having their identities tweaked and messed with by WWE and coming off worse as a result. Normally, this wouldn't be such a huge issue, since heels are supposed to be dominant for the faces to overcome, but it's been made clear there's no long-term planning going on into the booking decisions. According to reputable news sites like the Wrestling Observer, the finishes to both the Randy Orton vs. Jinder Mahal at Backlash and Bayley versus Alexa Bliss at Payback and Extreme Rules matches were changed up to 3 times each on the weekend of those respective shows, meaning the WWE really had very little idea who would hold on to the major championships leading into the next 2 to 3 month booking cycle. I want to know your thoughts on this, and if you've noticed poor booking of a babyface wrestlers in the recent months too. I personally think that WWE has done a terrible job in building new babyface stars lately, and the only people who are consistently pushed are people Vince takes a personal interest in. This could stem from WWE having around 27 writers who constantly rewrite the shows up to the live air dates, leading to no consistency in storylines and no long-term planning. Also, the use of NXT call-up talents is supposedly driving a rift between Vince and Triple H, because Triple H takes a lot of pride in his NXT graduates. Thanks for reading and looking forward to hearing your thoughts from Joe. Okay. All right, folks. Good question, and I can answer this one pretty simply. I've actually been saying this for the past 3 years. The problem with the modern day WWE is that they build up their faces and then they don't follow through. All right? How many times in the past 3+ years has there been someone that WWE seems to be promoting or pushing or building up to be a giant, baby face? He's going to overcome the odds. He's going to win against all odds and all obstacles, right? But then it doesn't happen. Guys like Dean Ambrose, guys like Seth Rollins right now, guys like Finn Balor, who sadly he was getting pushed, got injured, comes back, and now they're really not doing anything with the guy. And then the faces that they try to push are the ones that no one wants to win, like Roman Reigns. Anyone but Roman, right? You could literally pick any face on the roster right now and push them more than Roman, and people would like them more than Roman Reigns. But Vince is Vince, and Vince McMahon likes what he likes. He likes the big, beefy guys who he likes to say are underdogs, even though they're fucking giant roided dudes who obviously are gonna win every match no matter what, which is really stupid. The other thing is, Vince still hasn't phased out the last generation of superstars. So, okay, it's great they're pushing Seth Rollins right now. They're pushing this face right now, this face right now. But in a couple months, John Cena's coming back and he's just going to fucking squash everyone. Look what they did to AJ Styles. They made AJ Styles the top heel and the champion for some 6 to 8 months. Then as soon as fucking Cena comes back, job him out. Well, now who's going to care about AJ Styles? You know what I mean? It's the same thing. That's what I mean. Like, they don't follow through on their shit. They build up these people to be strong, and then they make them lose. So obviously, Sami Zayn, who in their right fucking mind would back Sami Zayn at this point? The guy, since he came up from NXT, he gets built up as this huge guy. Then lose. Destroyed. Then every once in a while, he wins a match. Oh, the underdog from the underground overcame the odds and won a match. That's not how you build a face. The guy's win record is awful. The guy almost never wins. Whenever he's fighting someone bigger than him, he loses every time. So obviously, why would you ever back someone? Why would you ever invest your emotional investment in a character or their story when you know that Vince is going to job them out or fuck it up? That's the problem. Why be behind Seth Rollins? You know he's going to get fucked. You know what I mean? And that's what they've done. Now, the heels, on the other hand, even when they get fucked, they still get pushes. Like Kevin Owens, he had the Universal title for a while. We knew he was going to fucking lose it and he was going to get gypped, right? Oh, God, part-timer Brock Lesnar's back. Give him the title. But at least Kevin Owens, he still got the U.S. title. He's still a top heel on SmackDown. They seem to be doing much better with the heels and the faces. You're absolutely right. But that's the problem. You can't just run a whole company around heels or else you end up with the fucking NWO again, right? But the entire company is fucking heels. And we all know how that went. So, I agree with pretty much everything that Joe has said. Even the booking of the ladies, the divas, is not good. They build them up, right? Bayley, Sasha Banks, build them up, and then job. Well, I wonder, let's make Bayley lose in her fucking hometown. What a great idea. And they do this all the time. Why do they always do this with faces? Build up a match that this face is having a big showdown in their hometown. The face always loses. Randy Orton just lost. Bayley just lost. The only person who won was fucking Naomi, which I couldn't believe they let Naomi win in her hometown. I thought for sure she was going to lose. So anyway, yeah, I completely agree with you, Joe. I do. What could they be doing better? Make some faces that actually fucking win and they hold something for a while, and stop bringing back the part-timer people who just take up everyone's time and money. John Cena and Brock Lesnar. I don't care about either of them at all. And I know, you know what's going to happen? Samoa Joe versus Brock. You know Joe's going to lose. So they built Joe up, going to lose. Gee, I wonder why no one cares about the new people in WWE anymore. So hard to figure out. All right. Next question is from Christian Osborne, 1996. He says, with the Spider-Man movie coming out soon, what was your first ever Spider-Man game that you played and the first Spider-Man comic that you read way before you became a part of YouTube? The first Spider-Man game I ever played was on the Atari 2600 called Spider-Man. It's the same piece of shit that the Angry Video Game Nerd played in his review of it. It is really bad. That game is terrible. I only played it because my uncle owned it and he let me borrow it, and I hated that game. The first Spider-Man comics I ever read were actually a Spider-Man crossover. It was when Todd McFarlane was drawing Spider-Man at the time, and it was a crossover between Spider-Man and the X-Men, and Spider-Man fought Juggernaut. And I read that comic, and I was like, wow, I really like how Spider-Man has these quips and these jokes that he says during his combat. I'd like to learn more about the character. So I jumped over and started reading Spider-Man, and incidentally, that was about the time that the Maximum Carnage major crossover event was happening between all of the Spider-Man books. So I ended up buying and reading the entire Maximum Carnage comic book line of plot lines, what I meant to say. And I actually really enjoyed it. If anything, the only thing I didn't like, there was no real resolution. At the end of Maximum Carnage, Carnage gets stopped, but not permanently. It's like so lame. It's just like the whole thing didn't happen. But it was good. And then after that, for some years, I read Spider-Man a little bit more, but then I kind of fell out and I went just back to the X-Men. So even though I am a fan of Spider-Man, I'm not a huge fan. I don't know anything about most of the stuff of his storylines. Okay. The last question from the forums, then we got just a few from the Twitter, and then we're going to wrap it up. So from the Will of Darkside, he says, Phil, I've noticed that you seem to intensely dislike games that don't explain everything outright, but rather let the player figure it out themselves. The games like Journey, Inside, Little Nightmares, and The Last Guardian to an extent. You call it lazy game design, but I tend to disagree. My question is twofold. First of all, why do you dislike this kind of games so much? And why do you feel the game should stop everything for a cutscene or a note dialogue to explain the story, rather than allow the player to put it together themselves through exploration and observation? Okay. Alright, let me explain. Here's why I don't like it. Let's say you're reading a book. Right, book costs anywhere from $5 to what, $20. If you're buying it brand new, $30 or something. If you buy the hardcover, most people don't, by the way. Let's say you're watching a movie. Okay, $5 rental. At the most, you go to the movies, you spent $20, right, on a ticket. And you're getting a digestible entertainment experience. All right, there's certain types of stories that I feel lend themselves to not having a definitive story or a coherent answer to everything. Horror movies, for example. One of the reasons that horror movies scare people on a psychological level is because a lot of the times not everything gets explained by the end of the movie. So you always have this lingering fear in the back of your head what's going to happen. For example, the end of The Ring. You don't know if the actions that were taking place during the movie will definitively end the killing spree of this ghost. You think they might, but it might not, and so there's always this terror in the back of your head. Did this fix the situation or not? Okay, I like that. Okay, horror movies are the exception to the rule. As a rule, when you're watching a story for entertainment, you want a coherent ending. You just don't want a cliffhanger. You don't want something that doesn't fully explain what happened. You want something that definitively you have an idea. One movie in particular that everyone to this day still debate the ending is the movie Inception. Because at the end of Inception, it's very unclear what's going on. You don't realize if at the end of the movie, if the main characters are still in a dream, or if they're outside of a dream, or if they're in the interim, you can't figure it out. And it's basically open to interpretation. Now, I believe they actually interviewed the director, and he gave his definitive answer, but he says you can interpret it differently. And that's okay. But here's the thing, all right? When I'm buying a game, this is something that's going to take up hours and hours of my time. In a lot of cases, you're dropping $60 to play a video game. It's more time investment, more effort, because you're not just sitting there watching or reading. You're actually putting your challenging your gameplay skill into the game to get to the end of that game, right? It's all of that combined to make what's supposed to be a coherent whole. And when I play a game and I get to the end and I have no fucking clue what I just played or what was going on, I get pissed because I put my time and effort and skill plus my money into something and I didn't feel that I got what I was supposed to get out of it. You know, games, just like movies, just like books, have many things. Yes, there's graphics. Yes, there's gameplay, but there's also story. If I didn't understand the story, one of the things of the game, the critical parts of the game, was a fail for me when I'm reading it, when I'm reading the job that those game developers did. I should understand what I'm fucking playing. The games in particular that Will of Darkside bring up, Journey, Inside, Little Nightmares, and Last Guardian, yeah, well, Last Guardian I would say made sense. Last Guardian actually kind of made sense. There's a few plot holes, but for the most part, that game makes sense. The other three, no, they don't. Those games, on face value, don't make sense. You need to either figure something out in your head for yourself, or actually ask the game developers what the fuck was the actual plot. Because there's no way, there's no dialogue, there's nothing written in those games that explains definitively what's going on in those games. So that's what gets me angry, is I spent my money and my time and my effort and everything on this, and I didn't get one of the core pieces of what should have been a part of this game. Now, there may be people out there who are okay with that, and that's fine. I'm just not that kind of person. For me, I want a game that's going to deliver everything. Not a game that was great gameplay, wow, beautiful visuals, oh, it pulled at the heartstrings and gave me the feels, but I don't know what the fuck I just played for 5 hours. You know what I mean? And a lot of these games are like that, and that's why they could have put in a game like, let me give you an example, Little Nightmares. They could have put text on the fucking screen. It would have been no effort at all. Text on the fucking screen during loading screens to explain the plot, and the game would have been infinitely better. But let's not. Let's just do the lowest possible amount of fucking effort, right? And that's what pisses me off. Because there's games out there with great stories, amazing gameplay, and those games get panned for some stupid little rinky-dink reason, while games like these, all of a sudden, oh, they're artistic. They're artistic because there's no defined story. 10 out of 10. Fuck you. If you do that in a review, you're not a real reviewer. You're a fucking artsy-fartsy fucking hipster piece of shit, and you shouldn't review games. You should go to an art gallery sipping your fucking caramel macchiato, you know what I mean, with your fucking bald head but your giant fucking disgusting Paul Bunyan beard, or your stupid weird-ass tattoos and dyed color hair, and go to the rest of the planet and stay away from us humans who actually like normal shit. Go over there and leave us alone. Because we don't need to be told that an indie game that's $30 and only 5 hours of gameplay and no definitive story is a 10 out of 10 because you're a fucking idiot. Okay. Now on to the Twitter questions. First question is from King Lunar, and he says, what do you think of Canada? Well, I've only been to Canada once. In fact, wait a minute. Another question I picked off Twitter was a similar question. Shit. I've only been to Canada once. The Canada that I've been to was Newfoundland. This is a very small fishing area in northeastern Canada, and it's very isolated and not like a lot of other Canada. From what I saw there, it was very local, very kind of, I can't put my finger on it. It wasn't industrialized very much. It was like a wharf town, and it was nice, don't get me wrong. It was a nice place, but I certainly wouldn't want to live there, especially because they get a ton of snow in the winter. Now, from what I'm to understand, Canada has a lot of nice places. Canada, in Vancouver in particular, is very close to me here in Seattle. It's only like a 2-3 hour flight up to Vancouver, and I understand that Vancouver is like a really nice tourist area in Canada. I would like to check that out for sure. A lot of people, for some reason, are prejudiced against Canadians. I don't know why. The few Canadians that I've met were Street Fighter players who were very competitive, but I never, like, disliked them. You know what I mean? So Canada, I'm cool with it. I would like to visit there someday. That's what I think of Canada. There you go. Okay, next question from Pimp Kong. He says, how often do you consider playing retro games? Well, here's the thing. First of all, retro, just the term retro games doesn't mean the same for everyone else. When I think retro games, I think games from the 1980s and 90s, and to some extent maybe the early 2000s, but I'm really thinking the core games, like NES games, Super NES games, Genesis. That era to me feels like retro, because that's what I grew up with as a kid, and that's what I like to think of as a throwback. A lot of people are younger than me, and they don't think that's not retro. That's ancient history. We don't want to see that. I like to see Phil play PS1 and 2 era games. That's retro to them. You know what I mean? So the term retro itself, I'm not even sure what you would be referring to when you're talking about video games, all right? Now, how often do I consider playing retro games? Well, it depends. Usually if there's new releases coming out, I wouldn't consider playing a retro game. Retro games are really more for downtime and filling time. For example, the summer right now, when I have time to go back and do something from the past. Sadly, and I hate to say this, a lot of the games that I would like to go back and play, you know, PS1 era games like Suikoden, stuff like that, Super NES games like Final Fantasy IV, I've never had a chance to play. And why? Because honestly, the games that I feel are retro and I'd like to play, people don't seem to like amongst my viewers. I don't understand that. I know my viewers love AAA games. They love me covering the new releases. They don't necessarily really like me playing these games from the past. And it really does suck, because the thing is, you know, I think that they're actually some of my best playthroughs. And I know that amongst my most hardcore fan base, those who are here all the time to support me, they love that stuff. Because when I play a game that I've played before and I love, they're like, wow, Phil's making references to things in the game. He knows this game and he's able to really do, like, it's not even like a playthrough anymore. It almost becomes like a walkthrough because I know so much about a game. But take a look at those playthroughs. See how many people show up for stream and see how many people actually watch the videos on YouTube, and you'll see what I mean. It's a drastic drop when I play a retro game. So I think about playing retro games when I have time to balance it with something else, so I know that I can keep everything going, and not that I've decided to play retro games nonstop for 2 months. Okay, well, I can't pay my bills for 2 months now because no one showed up, right? The last retro marathon I did, that's what happened. It was, 4 years ago now? I think it was the summer of 2013. I did the summer of retro. And I played, what did I play? Chrono Trigger, Earthbound. I did retro co-op with Rambo that summer. I ended up doing a bunch of retro, and basically people were so turned off, I ended up even ending it early. Because people were like, Phil's playing shitty games. I'm like, some people are just so ignorant. They don't want to understand that games from the past created everything we play now, and they don't want to take it in. It's not even just watching it for the fun of the game, but it's cultural value to learn where games came from. Those playthroughs are critical, in my opinion. But people, they don't show up. So it sucks. It really does suck. Like I said, in particular, a few games I would absolutely love to play right now. Final Fantasy IV, Suikoden, I'm trying to think if there's like one more retro game from that era that I would love to play. Let me think for a second. Shit. Those are the two that right now 100% are coming to mind. All right. So there you have it. There's your answer. Next question is from Suck a Surprise, and he says, "Have you ever traveled internationally? If so, where did you go? And if you haven't, where would you like to visit and why?" Well, I just told you the only international place I've ever been was Newfoundland, Canada. That was it. Never had the opportunity to leave the country outside of there. Outside of that, where would I like to go? A few places. I'd like to go to Japan someday just to visit. I'd like to go to Europe and do like a tour of Europe where I could do like Great Britain, France, Italy, Germany, and see those major countries as well, and see some of the big touristy landmarks and things in those countries. Honestly, those are kind of the two places I would like to go most. And then if I was able to do those two, then maybe I would consider other places. But those are the two things that I've kind of always wanted to do in my life. Right now, not looking so good, quite honestly. But I guess we'll see how stuff goes, okay? All right. Last question, folks, because I went long on every part of Ask the King, and my throat is completely shot, so let's end the show. The final question is from Joe Halo 77, and he says, SNES Classic, is it good or bad? Well, the answer to that question ultimately depends on who you are. If you're a person who is a fan of Nintendo, and maybe someone who has not had an opportunity to get a kind of gaming collection, and doesn't know much about emulation, and you want the chance to play these retro games from your childhood, then this new SNES Classic is SNES Classic is a godsend, right? You're able to get a singular unit that's going to have like 27 games or something in it and play all these games from your childhood on your modern TV. Great. If you're a collector, probably the SNES Classic is a godsend because it's probably going to sell just as much as the NES Classic did. And you know Nintendo's going to do exactly what they did with the NES Classic, not create enough of them to create artificial demand. But if you are an actual collector of video games, you're probably fuming. Because what's happening here is Nintendo is releasing all these games that you maybe have collections of, and now the value of all these games will go down because you can easily play these games on a little modern console. Like Earthbound is one of those games that like was always hard to play, and now anyone can just go buy an SNES Classic and play it easily. So what's the value of the cartridge now? You know what I mean? For someone like me, it's a non-announcement. Any of those games I could play right now on an emulator, so I don't care about buying the SNES Classic. The one exception would be Star Fox 2, which honestly I don't want to play. I thought Star Fox 1 on the SNES, honestly, I didn't like it. I thought that the graphics were terrible. The frame rate's garbage and the graphics were terrible. I really like Star Fox 64, but I actually didn't like the original Star Fox that much. So play another game with the same graphics as Star Fox 1, I'm not really interested. I think it would be more clunky and annoying than anything else. That's why they never even released it, because the PS1 had already come out and blown away the SNES in graphics, so they were like, no one's going to buy our game for, you know, 60, 80 bucks when there's far inferior looking games on PS1. Just scrap the project. So, I don't know, man. I just seriously, I don't see the SNES Classic to be a big announcement, just like I didn't think the NES Classic was a big announcement. People were asking me to get the NES Classic. I'm like, why? I can play all those games right now. Oh, but don't do that. Go buy the NES Classic. I'm like, it doesn't make sense. It's very simple. It's a collector's item, much like every other thing that Nintendo's putting out. It's a rare collector's item. You have to go get it. Creates artificial demand, makes everyone want to run out and buy it for the resale value. It's really not that big of a deal in my opinion. It's good if you have no access to those old games and you want to play them. It's bad if you're a collector. For most people, it's kind of who gives a shit. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for Ask the King. I will actually do some final shout-outs here. Let me scroll down here. So thank you to, we had another troll tip from Moore, a $2 troll tip. We got another person faking to be an Atlas employee who did 10-bit cheer. I'm not even going to bother reading that. Marky Mark 52 did a 25-bit cheer and says, Journey sucked balls, one of the most overrated games in history. I tend to agree. Timic 83 did a 50-bit cheer and said it would kill for Shenmue 1 and 2 playthroughs before Shenmue 3 comes out. I agree. There's rumors they're making an HD version of them. But I would like to play Shenmue 1 and 2 eventually. I agree. Tekken 3 did a 45-bit cheer and said Suikoden Craygasm. Yeah. Suikoden's a great game. And the King of Hypocrisy did a 50-bit cheer. And oh my god. Phil, my younger cousin graduated high school this year and is feeling depressed because most of his friends are moving out of town to go to college, and he's the only one in the local community college. Now that you're living the single life again and adjusting well, could you give him any advice on how to deal with potential loneliness? Sure. What you should try to do is fill yourself with all kinds of creative things like doing work or hobbies or things that'll fill your time, so that way you don't feel lonely because you're so full of other things that are going on. You feel like your time's full. Okay, I'm done. There you go. Sorry, I just didn't want to do a 45-minute fucking answer to that question. All right. Thank you, everyone, for watching Ask the King. Reminder, the forum thread for the next, I know people are laughing hysterically in the stream chat. The forum thread for the next episode of Ask the King, which takes place on August 24th, already exists on thekingofhate.com. You can head over there right now and post up your questions. If you want a guaranteed answer, Patreon, pledge on Patreon, and you will be able to get a guaranteed answer for your question. All right. Last thing. Wow, we got a troll tip of $2. Not reading that one. And Joseph Chalker did a 100-bit cheer and says he's off to an Australian Comic Con. Anyone that I want to meet at a con that I haven't yet. I really don't want to meet anyone. I'll say that again, and this will be the final thing I'll say for the episode. I don't want to meet anyone. I don't care. Like, it's cool. Wow, you know, this guy is an actor. This guy is into a comic maker. I don't care. Like, I've seen Stan Lee at Comic-Con. I had no desire to wait in line and get his autograph. For me, I don't get starstruck. I realize that's very different from a lot of people's mentality. And listen, if you're a huge fan, you look up to someone, you want to get an autograph. Tons of people have gotten my autograph. That's cool, and I'm not talking down about that. I'm just not that kind of person. Like, I wouldn't go to Comic-Con to meet an artist or a writer and shake their hand and get an autograph. I don't care. I really don't. I don't know. I've just never been like that. And I've been to many of these Comic-Con events, and I've been to gaming conventions where all this is happening. I'm just like, I don't care. I don't know. I just think people are people. Everyone's just a person. No one's some amazing person that's so famous that I want to get their signature. I never, even the president. It's just a guy. It's just a guy. You know what I mean? I don't know. That's just me. All right, everyone. That is it. Thank you for watching Ask the King. I hope you enjoyed the show. I'll see you in 2 months for the next episode. My voice is now so shot. I need to rest it for about 2.5 hours before I do my stream tonight. Thank you, everyone, for a great stream. See you later. Peace out.